Hey everybody, so this is my first video, so if you're not doing these in order and you're like, wow, this video's a mess, or wow, she's still in her classroom, yeah, that's because this is video number 1. So bear with me as we go through video number 1. Today's topic is the skeletal system, and there are 3 things that will be covered in this video. Thing number 1 will be the functions of the skeletal system. Thing number 2 will be what the specific bones within the skeletal system are called. And thing number 3 are how to classify those bones into 5 categories. Your goal by the end of this will be to be able to list 3 functions, to label the skeletal system, and the exact bones that I want you to be labeled are in the requirement sheet, and then to classify bone, so give an example of each of the 5 categories of bones. So, we'll start with functions. And there are 6 functions that I'm going to write down, but remember, you only have to remember 3 of them. So, number 1. Support. Your skeletal system supports you. I would just be a puddle on the floor if it weren't for the skeletal system. The second thing the skeletal system does, again, this is probably stuff you learned in like elementary school, movement. It works together with that muscular system so that I can move. Because if I didn't have skeletal system, my muscles really don't have anything to move because I would just be, again, a puddle on the floor. Number 3, mineral storage. So, your bones are made out of minerals. You know, when you were a kid, people would say, drink your milk, get that calcium, help you build stronger bones. Part of your bone's function is to actually store calcium. We'll talk a little more of the components of bones in a future lesson if you choose to partake in that. But no, they're made of minerals, and as you need those minerals, they'll actually be pulled out of your bones. And as you gain up on minerals, they'll go into your bones. Number 4. Protection. That's another basic one that you probably learned when you were younger. Think of your ribs. They're protecting all of your internal organs so that you don't get like impaled by a stick because you've got something solid blocking that. We're gonna move over. Floop. Floop. Cool. Another thing they do is blood cell formation. They help form your blood cells. If you recall in our heart blood unit, where blood is made, it's in your bone marrow. So that's one of the jobs of your bones. So they don't just stand there and be like, I'm dead, I give you structure and I protect things, I'm hard. They actually are living, and they do things like create blood cells. And last but not least, they store energy, which, you know, if you like moving and stuff, important. So I'm going to try to move the iPad to a place that you can see all of these things. Cool. So now that you can see all of them, feel free to pause this video. And remember, for the quiz at the end of this, you will need to know 3 of them. So, pause, I'm erasing. And as I'm erasing, I'm turning on my projector that hasn't been on for like a week. I miss you guys, just so you know. And we are going to next label the parts of the skeletal system. So this diagram is actually on Schoology for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a few notes on it to hopefully help you remember what these different parts are. So, starting here, skull. Most of us probably know what our skull is. Sometimes it's called cranium. We're just going to keep it simple. We're going to call it the skull. Then we're going to move down to our jawbone. Your jawbone is actually called your mandible. Now, we are currently looking at a cow skeleton. The thing is, I'll give you a little secret. On any mammal, all of these bones are the same. So if I give you a dog skeleton, it's going to look the same. That being said, we're just going to learn it on a cow because that's the picture I had. Throughout your practices, you might be looking at goats, you might be looking at cows, you might be looking at cats. As long as it's a mammal, it looks like this. So, mandible is your jaw. Your scapula. Scapula is your shoulder blade. Right here, this is the cow's shoulder blade, also known as scapula. Next, we're going to go down our arm, and something to keep in mind, we are bipedal, meaning we walk on 2 legs. Cows, and most animals we talk about, walk on 4 legs. So something you can kind of remember to get you through this is that a 4-legged animal's front legs, think of them as your arms, and a 4-legged animal's back legs, think of those as your legs. So, humerus is right here. So this is my humerus. It's the cow's humerus. And as you travel down the arm, so we've got this one right here, you've got 2 bones here. And traveling here, we got 2 bones here. They are your radius and your ulna. Your ulna is the shorter bone. So ulna is smaller. And how you're going to remember that is ulna is the smaller word. So your ulna is shorter, or smaller. Both shorter and smaller in diameter. And you've got your radius. Next, you've got, so going down my arm, I've got my wrist. And the beginning of my wrist is known as carpals. Carpus. Have you ever heard of carpal tunnel? Issues in this area. It's really painful. You don't want it. But carpus, that's there. Right here. Now, your next spot is your metacarpus. Meta means middle. So your metacarpus is between your carpus and your phalanges. We all know phalanges is a fun word to say. And your phalanges are both your fingers and your toes. So, phalanges are here, phalanges are here. All phalanges. So, arm, we start at the scapula, we go to the humerus, radius and ulna, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. Next, we are going to go through the back legs. So, just like your arm starts with your scapula, your back legs, or your legs, starts with the pelvis. And the pelvis has 2 parts, ischium and ilium, but we're not going to care about that. I just want you to know that you have a pelvis. It looks like this. Yours doesn't look just like that because it's a cow, and you're not a cow, but it looks something like that. After the pelvis is your femur. Your femur is your strongest bone in your body. Strongest bone. Also, it is really, really painful to break. I was doing some reading this weekend, and I saw that one of the first evidence of civilization was actually a healed femur, because that meant that somebody broke their femur, and instead of getting eaten by a wolf or a lion or something, was cared for and survived, and it healed. So that's actually a really big part of civilization, is that we care for each other when we break. You don't want your femur to break. You don't want that. So that's your femur. And between your femur and your second half of leg bones is a little bone called your patella. Your patella is your kneecap. Patella is kneecap. I've seen someone dislocate their kneecap before. It's really painful when you're on the playground and you look and see a kid screaming on the floor, on the ground, and their kneecap, instead of being, here, is here. I was emotionally scarred as a child. But patella, it's loose. It's not actually connected to any other bone except through tendons. That's why it's its own bone, because it just kind of exists. Super important though, it protects nerves that run up to your brain. Then we've got your tibia and your fibula, which are these bones right here. In this case, I've got to double check to make sure I don't give you the wrong one. Fibula is the shorter one. And fibula may be smaller. But it's first alphabetical. So think fibula earlier in the alphabet than tibula. Tibia. There we go. Nope, it's tibula. Fibula, tibula, they rhyme. Fibula is the smaller one. So heading back down, we're going to continue down our leg. And just like you have a carpus, you have tarsus. Similar word, just starts with a T instead of a C. So your back legs, it's tarsus. Front legs, it's carpus. Connections. Ha ha ha. It's like, they wanted you to think that they're very similar, because they are similar. And just like you had metacarpus, you have metatarsus. So right around. So you got your tarsus there. Ooh, I didn't realize that this one wasn't labeled. Your tarsus, or your metatarsus, is the next one down. After your metatarsus, you have phalanges. Phalanges are pretty rad too. So, phalanges, pelvis. Middle of your body, you've got your ribs. Hopefully, you all know what your ribs are. Almost a freebie. You know what ribs are. Then you've got cervical vertebrae. Well, time out. First of all, this whole thing right there, that's your vertebrae. You start with cervical vertebrae, and you move back to thoracic vertebrae. Now, how these are divided is your cervical vertebrae are your neck. Right here. So whatever vertebrae are over your neck, cervical. Thoracic, they're over your rib cage. Next, you've got lumbar vertebrae. They're between your rib cage and your pelvis. Once your pelvis starts, your lumbar vertebrae ends. Then you've got sacral. Your sacral vertebrae are over your pelvis. And lastly, you've got coccygeal, or caudal. Remember how when we were talking about anatomical directions, caudal is towards your back half? Because your caudal is your tailbone. Caudal, coccygeal, they're the same thing. We just need two different words for them, apparently. Caudal, in my opinion, is the easier one to remember. So, remember, this here is in your is in the folder on Schoology, or if you have a paper copy, it's printed out, but if you have a paper copy, you're probably not watching this. So, if you want to pause or take a screenshot, I'll try to get in like this nice view to screenshot this, your choice. Otherwise, I will flip off the projector. And the last bit of the video is classifying bones. And this part you're going to want to write down again. So we have 5 classifications. Long bones. Think arms, legs. They're long. Long bones. The big thing is they support weight. Two examples would be your femur and your humerus. Your femur and your humerus, long bones, they're long, they support weight, movement, that sort of thing. Next, opposite of long, we've got short. These are cube-shaped, actually. And they provide stability. Think like your wrists. Your wrists, your ankles, they need to be small so they can move like this. But they provide support and stability. So think carpus or tarsus. Next, we've got the flat bone. Protection. Prime examples, so protection, our skull, ribs, bones that protect. So I'm going to do a quick pause. You can pause this to write it down, and then I'm going to erase. So pause it, and I'll erase. All right, 2 more left, and they're kind of weird ones. Sesamoid. So remember how I was talking your kneecap? It's not really like connected with other bones. It chills. So it's connected by tendons. And so your patella is an example of one, your patella. And last but not least, we've got irregular bones. So this is kind of your miscellaneous. Prime example, your pelvis or your vertebrae. So that is a much longer video than I was hoping for it to be. And hopefully this is the longest video that I have because there was a lot of anatomy. But that being said, oh yeah, I'll let you do your pause. That being said, practice that anatomy. Have all of this written down. In the end, you will take a quiz. So hopefully I will see perfect scores on those because you can take them until they're perfect. See you guys later.